This is Dante Williams, and you're watching
Dante's Boxing Nation.
This is Showtime Sean Porter, Filipino Flash, Jesse Burns.
This is Al Bernstein. You're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Hi, I'm Sugar Ray.
Chick Shape.
Search over last name,
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Boom, 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 boom. Yo, this is Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder.
My name is Gennady Golovkin.
And you're watching
Dante's Boxing Nation. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Once again, another terrific night of boxing. Peter Quillen gets a draw against Andy Lee. Now, I know a lot of people believe that Peter Quillen, he deserved the win because he got the 2 knockdowns and he was the one applying all the pressure. But there's one thing I notice about Peter Quillen, which is kind of surprising to me with him being a power puncher. You know, I was always taught in boxing, which, you know, I passed it down to my own son. You have the boxer and you have the banger. You box the banger and you bang the boxer, right? But for some reason, in this fight, and not only this fight, but Peter Quillen has done this in many fights, Peter Quillen often tries to box the boxer. And that's what he did in this fight against Andy Lee. I mean, don't get me wrong, Peter Quillen, he did a great job. You know, he landed some vicious combinations. Like I said, he got the knockdowns, some nice counter shots. You know, and when he hurt him, he tried to go in there and he tried to knock him out. He tried to take care of business. But what I'm saying is, after Peter Quillen hurt Andy Lee a couple times, you got to think about the fact that Andy Lee is 6'2". He has very long arms, and he knows how to box. He's a pretty good boxer. So my thing is, why is Peter Quillen trying to fight this man from somewhat of a mid-range position? And he's sitting there just waiting, trying to counter this guy. You know, for years, I've been watching the progression of Peter Quillen, and it used to bother me because I would watch him box, and I would say, man, he reminds me of someone. I just couldn't think of who it was, but I'm like, he reminds me of someone. Just looking at his stance, you know, and his intentions, his bad intentions to knock his opponent out, he reminded me of someone, and I couldn't think of who it was. And now, when I tell you guys this, I'm not saying he's as good as this guy. I'm just saying his stance when he's in the ring resembles this fighter's style. And that fighter would be Felix Tito Trinidad. Now, obviously, Tito Trinidad was a far more complete fighter than Peter Quillen. You know, I mean, we don't know how far Peter Quillen is going to go. I mean, you know, still pretty early in his career. This was his biggest test against Andy Lee, and I thought he did pretty good. But the difference from a Felix Tito Trinidad is Trinidad, he knows how to close the distance. He knows how to close that gap. And see, Peter Quillen, he didn't really know how to do that. Like I said, once again, he's fighting against a tall, long fighter who knows how to box. And Peter Quillen, he stayed on the outside, basically. And instead of trying to bob and weave, moving his head side to side like Tito Trinidad used to do, Peter Quillen would stay on the outside, and he would just try to leap in with one hard punch, as opposed to trying to work his way in with either head movement or a well-timed jab. I believe because Peter Quillen wasn't doing this, he made this fight a lot more difficult than it had to be. Peter Quillen, he could have knocked out Andy Lee in this fight. But once again, because he stayed on the outside trying to counter the boxer, he allowed a lot of these rounds to be a lot closer than they should have been. Now, overall, I still think that Peter Quillen put on an excellent performance, considering the fact that Andy Lee just knocked out the undefeated Matt Karabov. And Peter Quillen, you know, he comes in here knocking this man down twice, jumping on him, and making it look like Andy Lee didn't belong in the ring with him. But then all of a sudden, like I said, Peter Quillen, he allows it to turn into a chess match, which is why the fight ended up a draw. He can't fight like that if he goes in there against someone like a Gennady Golovkin, because Gennady Golovkin is not going to allow you to take off rounds or take off minutes in a round. But overall, I think the middleweight division is heating up just a little bit. I mean, it's nothing like the welterweight division or the junior welterweight division, where you have a lot of good fighters in that division. In this division, I mean, you pretty much just have Peter Quillen, you have Gennady Golovkin, you have Danny Jacobs, and a couple other fighters. But once again, like I said, it's not a deep division. So at the end of the day, the fight was a draw. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. Let's see what happens in the future. That's pretty much all I got. I'm on to the next one.